You're about to hear a story that might just change the way you see love, trust, and the courage it takes to open your heart again. If you're watching right now, stick with me until the very end, because what happens in the last moments will leave you smiling through tears. And hey, if this story touches you, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel, because we share real, soul-stirring stories every week. Ethan Walker was a single dad, and not by choice. A decorated Army veteran, he'd served his country with everything he had, but life had left him with wounds no metal could heal. His wife, Laura, passed away 3 years ago after a long battle with cancer, leaving him to raise their 7-year-old son, Ben, alone. Ethan was a man who didn't complain. He woke up at 5 a.m. every day, packed lunches, got Ben to school, then headed to his job as a mechanic at a local garage. Money was always tight, but he never let Ben feel the weight of it. They shared a small 2-bedroom apartment, second-hand furniture, and an unshakable bond. One Saturday morning, while Ethan was grocery shopping, Ben darted off toward the bakery section, chasing the smell of fresh cookies. That's where Ethan first saw her, Amelia Ross. She was beautiful in an effortless way, hair falling over her shoulders, a soft smile as she kneeled to help her 3 identical little girls pick cupcakes. Her triplets were giggling, talking over each other in high-pitched voices, and Amelia handled them like a conductor leading a symphony. Ethan, who was used to a quiet home with just him and Ben, couldn't help but notice how warm her presence felt. When Amelia looked up and their eyes met, Ethan quickly looked away. But Ben, being a kid with no filter, ran straight to her. "Hi. I'm Ben. My dad's over there." And before Ethan could stop him, Ben was already tugging Amelia toward him. She smiled politely and introduced herself, and Ethan, feeling suddenly awkward, stumbled over his words. They ended up chatting briefly. Turns out Amelia had just moved back to town after years in the city. She mentioned she was raising her triplets on her own, but didn't say much more. Over the next few weeks, they kept bumping into each other, at the grocery store, at the park, even at the school drop-off line. Eventually, Amelia suggested they all go out for ice cream with the kids. Ethan hesitated. Dating wasn't on his mind, and besides, he wasn't sure a woman like her would see anything in him. But she was persistent, and Ben's excited pleading sealed the deal. The first outing went better than Ethan expected. The kids got along instantly, and Amelia had a way of making conversations feel easy. After that, they started meeting more often at playdates, coffee runs, little moments that slowly turned into something deeper. Amelia never talked about her work, and Ethan never pried. To him, she seemed like just another hard-working single parent trying to do her best. One night, Amelia invited Ethan to dinner, just the two of them. She picked a cozy, candlelit restaurant downtown. Ethan felt a little out of place in his worn blazer, but she didn't seem to care. They talked for hours about childhood dreams, about the battles they'd fought, his in uniform, hers in ways she didn't fully explain. When the bill came, Ethan instinctively reached for it. He wasn't the kind of man to let someone else pay. But Amelia placed her hand gently over his and said, "I've got this." He looked at the bill and almost choked. It was more than his week's paycheck. "Amelia. I can't let you," he started, but she just smiled. "Ethan, I invited you. And besides, this is nothing." Her tone was calm, but something about the way she said it made Ethan pause. The next day, Amelia finally told him the truth. She wasn't just a single mom, she was a millionaire. She'd built a successful chain of wellness studios across the country before selling them and moving back home to give her girls a quieter life. She hadn't told him earlier because she'd been burned before men who only saw her as a bank account, not a person. "I needed to know," she said softly, "if you like me for me." Ethan was stunned. In his world, every dollar mattered, and the idea of someone having that kind of money felt like another planet. But looking at her, he realized he didn't care about her wealth. He cared about the way she laughed, the way she listened, the way she treated Ben like her own. Still, he had doubts. Could a man like him really fit into her world? Could a woman like her really be happy in his? But Amelia silenced his fears one afternoon when she showed up at the garage, grease on her hands from helping him fix a car, smiling like she belonged there. "Ethan," she said, "I don't need someone to buy me things. I need someone to stand beside me." Their relationship wasn't perfect. They had to learn each other's worlds, compromise on parenting styles, and face the whispers from people who didn't understand. But slowly, they built something stronger than either had expected. And one evening, as the six of them sat around a messy dinner table covered in spilled juice and laughter, Ethan realized something. He wasn't just a single dad anymore. He was part of a family again. If you've stayed with me until now, remember this: love doesn't always come when you're looking for it, and it doesn't always fit the picture you had in mind. Sometimes, it shows up in a grocery store aisle, wearing a smile and holding 3 cupcakes. And when it does, you just have to be brave enough to take the first step. So if this story touched your heart, give it a like, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories that prove love. Real love isn't about money, it's about showing up, day after day, for the people who matter. Ethan didn't sleep well that night after Amelia revealed the truth about her wealth. He lay awake staring at the ceiling, his mind tangled in thoughts. He wasn't intimidated by the money itself, it was the idea that her life and his might be too far apart. He was used to budgeting down to the last dollar, to skipping meals so Ben could have a full lunchbox. How could she possibly understand that world? The next morning, Ben bounced into the kitchen, still in his pajamas. "Dad, are we seeing Miss Amelia today? The girls want to show me their trampoline." Ethan smiled faintly. "We'll see, buddy." But his tone wasn't as bright as usual. Later that day, Amelia texted, "The girls and I are making homemade pizza. Want to come over?" He hesitated before typing back, "Sure." "What time?" When they arrived, Amelia's house was like something out of a magazine: spacious, sunlit, every corner filled with warmth. But it wasn't the size that struck Ethan, it was the way it felt lived in. Toys scattered across the living room, tiny socks on the couch armrest, the smell of fresh dough in the air. Amelia greeted them with flour on her cheek and her hair pulled into a messy bun. "You're just in time. Grab an apron." Ethan felt his guard slipping as the kids laughed, shaping pizzas into odd shapes. At one point, Amelia leaned close and whispered, "You've been quiet today. What's on your mind?" He hesitated, then said, "I'm just trying to figure out if I fit here." Her eyes softened. "Ethan, you don't have to fit into some idea of my life. We can build something new together. I've had the money for years, but it never made me happy. You make me happy. You and Ben." That night, after dinner and a chaotic dance party in the living room, Amelia walked into the door. "Don't let fear keep you out," she said quietly. And for the first time, Ethan let himself believe her. Over the next few months, their worlds began to merge in small, imperfect ways. Amelia would join Ethan and Ben at the local park instead of taking the kids to the private club. Ethan fixed Amelia's car himself instead of letting her call a luxury service. They found joy in the ordinary. But not everyone approved. One evening, while picking Ben up from school, Ethan overheard 2 parents whispering about him. "She's dating him? A mechanic? She could have anyone." Ethan's stomach tightened. That night, he considered ending things. He didn't want Amelia or her girls to face judgment because of him. When he told her, Amelia didn't even blink. "Ethan, I've dealt with gossip my whole life. People will always have something to say. But you're not in this alone anymore. We're in this together." The turning point came one rainy Saturday. The triplets were in the living room building a blanket fort while Ben worked on a Lego set. Amelia was curled up next to Ethan on the couch, sipping coffee. Out of nowhere, Ben looked up and said, "Miss Amelia? Can I call you Mom someday?" The room fell silent. Amelia's eyes brimmed with tears, and she nodded slowly. "I'd like that very much, Ben." Ethan's throat tightened. In that moment, he knew this wasn't just dating anymore. This was family. Months later, Ethan planned a picnic by the lake. The kids ran around chasing bubbles while he and Amelia sat on a blanket. He took her hand and said, "I can't promise you fancy vacations or 5-star dinners. But I can promise you loyalty, respect, and love every single day." Amelia smiled through tears. "That's all I've ever wanted." And so, a single dad veteran who thought he'd never love again, and a millionaire mom who thought she'd never be loved for herself, built a life together. It wasn't perfect, there were spilled drinks, late night work,